we both really like to get into really nasty stuff where like a lot of other people get upset. They're like, "Why'd you bring me here?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm tired, my arms hurt," and I constantly push him, and I'm like, "Dude, like, you don't think I'm gonna get out of there? Take me in there, like, let's go." And
Yeah.
he loves that. That's my attitude, and I don't complain.
Little follow the
One
leader, right?
there. Yeah, so we're just two peas in a pod right there. We're just constantly like, you think we can get out? Maybe not. That's perfect. Let's
Perfect. Let's go try
know
it.
we'll get out, but like, it's
Maybe, it might be a hike, but we'll get out one way or another.
yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I actually had Smasher on the show here. I don't know how many months ago it's been now. It was springtime, right? Wasn't it that you guys went up there together? And I think it was
Mhm.
maybe a month or two after he had been up there. But we talked with on his show about from his point of view, his experience of going up and being invited to speak at his old school, like high school, and to speak to the graduating class and just come in and hopefully be an inspiration to the local kids who in very very remote parts of the world like Alaska and frankly even I can think of rural Minnesota where I grew up. Same kind of things can happen where someone moves out of the area, becomes a little bit more well known, and then they can come back and maybe speak to the student body and maybe be a little bit of an inspiration for a community that definitely needs that. And it was an amazing story, and he had mentioned that you were with to help kind of document and film the whole thing and be part of it. And I thought it would be really interesting for you to kind of share from your point of view, what you witnessed and what you saw, and maybe what inspired you for that trip. But let's talk first about like the phone call. I would imagine at some point he gave you a call and says, "Hey, I'm heading to Alaska, and you're coming with me." Like, what did that happen? Like, how did that happen? So,
Um, if y'all want to see what the whole trip, I've got 4 episodes on my YouTube, Feeder
okay,
Country. You can go right there and you can see the visual of what I'm going to explain.
sure,
The phone call was even predating the phone call since
okay,
him and I met. He's always goes, "Oh, we got to go back to Alaska and ride where I grew up sometime. It's great time. You'd love it, you know." And
yeah,
I was always like, "Yeah, dude, sure. Like I'm down. That'd be
let's
really
do it.
cool if it could ever happen, you know." And then he called me. He probably for like 2 years he was trying to, I think, work something out with Climb to help get us up there or something. And then uh, the city of Dillingham, where he's from, actually came up with the cash to fly us both out there. And he called me up and was like, "Hey, buddy, I made it happen." And I knew exactly what he was talking about right away. And I
Very
was
cool.
like, "Dude, we're going to Alaska."
That's awesome. Had you ever been? Had you ever been to Alaska?
I've been one time before
Okay.
for I think I was there for like 2 months.
That's amazing. I've still never been, and it's totally on my bucket list. I want to get up there sometime. So,
Every time I go, I don't know why I'm going back to the lower 48.
really, it's that good, huh?
I I need to stay.
Yeah, yeah. What is the big draw? Is it just the landscape? Is it the people? Is it just the sense of adventure that you're up there in the kind of this like unrestricted wilderness areas that you're in up there? Like what is the thing that really draws you in up there?
I think for me personally, I like the cold, I like the snow, and I like the size of the mountain
Okay.
and kind of just the gnarliness of it. And they're like real snow people, like like I I like that. My soul feels at home when
That's
I'm up
cool.
there.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I've definitely got to get up there in the next few years. So cool.
You
Well,
like it. You
yeah,
might not believe either.
I know, right? I know, right? Maybe it'll be my retirement plan or something someday. So
Hey, you let me know. I'll come out and ride.
that sounds like a deal. Sounds like a deal. And so you got the call, you headed up there, and so what kind of planning went into this trip? Was it just a like, hey, we know exactly what we're doing, and let's grab our stuff and go, or was there like a certain amount of planning that had to be done to get up there to make sure you had the right camera equipment, the right riding gear, all that kind of stuff, or what was that evolution like?
Chris and I didn't really talk a lot about like what we were gonna do. I knew the only we had a very rough outline. We knew that one day was going to be spent with him talking to the kids,
Yep.
and that we would hopefully get 2 days, maybe 3 days of going and actually riding snowmobiles. But we were going to be riding people's extra sleds, so
Yeah.
it could have been everything from, a Polaris Edge chassis
Yeah.
to, someone's maybe a Gen 4. Like, it was, who knows what we're going to, it could have been a 95 triple. Like,
Yeah.
who knows what we're going to be riding on, but that wasn't, we were going for the adventure. And
That's
that was
awesome.
our attitude the whole time was, we're just going for the adventure. Like, whatever.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I enjoy not having too much of a plan and just
wing it.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what about the day of the talk to the students? Obviously Smasher had his role. He was there front and center, making the kind of the discussion happen. What were you doing throughout that? Were you literally just behind the camera? Was there other things going on? And is there anything that you witnessed that really stood out to you that day that was pretty moving?
You would have thought Elvis came back from the dead the way they were treating him in that town.
That's cool.
That man was surrounded. The kids were just so captivated to see someone that grew up there. It's such a small town. I can't even. I wish It's only a few hundred people that live there full time.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and to see someone from their hometown leave and then be in snowmobile videos and for them to be able to watch, and that's the most famous person that could ever came there.
Yeah.
So the kids just hung on to every word, and I was there. I filmed a little bit of it, but he did most of it the day before I came in.
Gotcha.
But then to see his own friends that he hadn't seen in 20 years and stuff,
Yeah.
they were just they wouldn't let him leave. They just wanted to talk to him, and he wanted to stay too. It wasn't like he was trying to get away from him. But I've never seen someone so loved by a community that just came out of the woodwork to hang out with him and share old stories and make sure we had everything we needed.
Very cool.
And they let us ride some really cool machines.
I bet. So before we jump off of the day with the kids, I'm curious. It feels like it could be something that just being there and watching could give you personally maybe a new perspective that maybe you hadn't had before, and maybe something in your life that you walk away going, wow, I'm going to add this to I'm going to do this list that maybe there's something new that you've added to, something that you want to achieve or something that you want to do. Did you come out of that day watching this happen and the inspiration to the young kids in the school? Did you walk away with anything that was kind of, potentially life-changing for you personally?
I think I'm personally not influenced, but inspired to be more like Chris all the time. Just the way he interacts with people, it makes them feel important and stuff.
Yeah.
Is inspiring to me, and to be able to, I think it's inspiring to me to try to make changes with my interactions with people, so that I can come back to a place in 20 years and people are like, I heard Ben's in town, we got to go see him,
Awesome.
And not screw that guy, like he did this or that to me and blah 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 blah.
Who's that loser, huh? No.
Yeah, just leave a positive impact on people, a lasting impact.
Yeah.
I think that's what inspires me and what I took away from.
Yeah, and I've always been a big believer in it resonates with me what you just said, because I'm a big believer in every interaction we have with other human beings is you have the ability to either build them up or tear them down, right? And are the words you're using and the interactions you're using there to kind of help elevate people around you, or are you trying to elevate yourself? This is just a rhetorical question, not you personally, but are people out there elevating themselves at the expense of others sometimes? And it's something that's a good reflection, I think, for all of us. And it sounds like life lessons were learned, and you had an amazing experience. So
Yes, sir.
Cool. Well, let's shift gears over to the ride days then. So what did you guys end up riding? And I heard you guys got to ride with some kids that were pretty good rippers out there. They were flying across these open fields and meadows and across the mountains and tearing it up pretty good. But did they put you on a halfway decent sled? Were you on some super old crappy machine, or were you on something more modern, or what was the status?
I think I got to ride 5 different machines or something, or maybe 6 over the 3-day ride. I was like, it's great. It's perfect. My favorite machine I got to ride was a 2020 Polaris Axis XCR.
Okay.
Holy cow, that thing put a smile on my face. Chris and I were fighting over that machine. I think I got on it first. It's in the YouTube. I was on it first, and I could tell he was jealous. Because they put him on like a 2012 Pro RMK,
Gotcha.
like 163 or something,
Yeah.
And he's just looking at me, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I know he wants it, but I'm not going to give it to him because he's not going to give it back to me.
Yeah.
And we ride for maybe 10 minutes, and he comes up to me, and he goes, let me get on it.
That's perfect. So
and I was like, okay, you can ride it.
All right.
I'm here only because of you.
Yeah.
So I rode the XCR. I got to ride a Polaris 600 RR or R, their race sled, the snowcross race sled.
Yeah.
Which was a trip because it's the suspension set up for hitting triples.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
So it's so stiff. You get on it, it's like a 2x4. And then I rode a Polaris Edge chassis, like XC.
Okay.
What else did I ride? I rode that same 2012 Polaris Pro RMK. I got to ride a Switchback Assault, which was neat.
Nice.
That I haven't ridden before. And there might have been one other machine I can't think of that I rode. But those were the machines we got to ride, which was fun. And then the kids, oh my goodness. Talk about a reality check. There were some 13, 14-year-olds there that
full throttle,
they will outride you in their terrain, ripping across the lakes or even across the meadows and stuff. These kids are 12 years old, riding Dad's 850 Ski-Doo Gen 4 and to the bars. It's skis up across the meadow, and it's not just like, oh, to the bars and ooh and let go. It's to the bars.
Hold on.
All the way across.
Yeah.
And the kids, 100 pounds on a machine that makes 160 horsepower and weighs
insane.
less than 400 pounds dry, and you're just like, this kid's wild. And Chris has video of him trying to catch these kids, and it took him 300 foot meadows of Chris just to the bars to catch up to one of these kids. And then the second Chris gets next to the kid, the kid looks over and just
hammers down again. Gone.
He gave it a little extra and just he's up, he's gone. Chris is like, look at these kids go.
Oh, nice. Well, guess who just came out of the woodwork and showed his face here? We've got Mr. Smasher here. He says, "Here I am." He says, "My boy Ben is on the show tonight." So, yep. Hey, Smasher. We're just chatting a little bit about we're just about wrapping it up here, but we're chatting right now about Ben's experience up in Alaska, chasing you around and hanging out with all the kids in your old hometown. So good times. So
and the kids are tough, man. They're some of them don't wear goggles. They don't get cold. They've got some beat up gear, but they've got passion.
Yeah.
And they're good riders. They're good riders.
Very good. Well, one thing that you talking about the sleds you guys are riding, especially that XCR, is, I grew up in the Midwest riding on trail sleds, some crossovers, but really it was the short track trail sleds. And like, I always wondered, like, why in the heck would anybody need anything bigger than a 600? Because knowing how a 600 performs at low elevation, 1,000 feet and below in the Midwest, it's like, why would you want to go any faster than that? Like, it's just insane to think about it. And then you get out and you start, like, now the last 10 years I've lived in the mountains. All I ride is mountain sleds, and I legit have not gotten back on a trail sled or kind of a shorter track sled for 10, 12 years probably now at this point. And I frankly miss it. And the idea of like getting on like a XCR, an 850, or even the 600, the less rotating mass of the track, the shorter track, like, it makes so much more power and it goes so much faster, and then it's stable. Like, people on a mountain sled are like, why would you want a trail ride? It's like, when you get a wide, shorter sled, like, that thing's like a go-kart, and it just rails and does like drifting around corners. and it's so much fun. And I legit need to set myself up and go there. I know I keep getting invited back to like the East Coast, even to go back to like New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and go riding with folks out there. And I know in a heartbeat people would love to ride together back in Minnesota as well again. And so I think I need to pull the trigger and just kind of plan a trip. I don't know if I'm going to make it this year, but maybe next season I need to block out a week and just fly back out east somewhere and do some trail riding, because I do miss that experience. It's just very different and equally as fun, but just very different. So
It's really fun. I two thumbs up. I fully support you on that decision.
yep, yep.
Riding the trails on the short track sled when the trails are slushy, it's dang near the same adrenaline as riding POW on the trail.
Yeah.
And you can go a lot faster, and it soaks up the bumps, and it is a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
You can really enjoy a whole nother world of snowmobiling, a whole nother color, whole nother taste of snowmobiling with a different machine.
Very good, very good. Well, I think we've talked through most of the things we wanted to go through tonight. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we highlight before we start maybe saying some thank yous and all that before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. Check out Feeder Country YouTube. Yeah. The Feeder 500, I have a Facebook group for. I think it's private, but if you just send a request,
okay,
you can join. And in there, I kind of give as big a heads up I can for like the weekend rides or the test and tunes, and then footage and photos at the end of the year, and a place for us the riders, the competitors, to actually talk about things we'd like to change to make the event better.
Very good. So they can find your YouTube channel and follow. Obviously, we'll link you here into the show here as well too. But if there's any links, Ben, that you want to make sure people get, feel free to drop them into the comments, and we can add them in there as well too. So any final thank yous? I'm sure like Smasher he's here watching, so thanking him for inviting you up to Alaska, I'm sure is part of it. But is there anybody else that you want to make sure that you recognize or say thank you to, or are there any folks that are helping you with your event, like the Feeder 500, that are a key part of it, or anything that you want to recognize?
Yeah, obviously Chris, as always, taking me under his wing. He's made my snowmobiling so much more fun the last 5 years, I guess, now that we've been riding together. All my sponsors that help me out are huge. Froze Garage, 509, Fox, SLP, DuraPro, Arctic FX, Got Power Sports, Sled Solutions, and ZRP. A lot of those companies also donate prizes to the Feeder 500.
Nice.
ZRP, Arctic FX, and SLP all stepped up to the plate last year to help make the event better, and I think I had gift certificates for them ranging from like $200 to $400.
Wow!
So was able to get our first place racers some cool prizes, and hopefully for this year we'll have better prizes. Sierra Snowmobile Foundation for keeping access to our public lands available to snowmobiles. Lake Tahoe Snowmobile Club for giving new riders into the sport a way to learn areas and zones, terrain, and meet other riders and learn avalanche safety. I'd like to thank you, John, for having me on here.
Oh, my pleasure.
And my parents for being supportive of their kid wanting to dedicate his life to being in the snow and being in the mountains, which isn't necessarily the most financially stable thing for your child to maybe want to be into, but it sure brings me a lot of enjoyment and passion in my life.
Yeah, I think every parent just wants their kid to be happy and to have whatever level of success, whatever it means to them, as long as they're happy and feeling successful in what they're doing. I think that would make any parent happy, so I'm sure they're happy for you. So.
Yep.
Very good. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and I can't finish the show without telling everybody, don't forget to live large, everybody. Live life to the fullest. Make the most of every day. Make a difference to others. And God bless everybody. Have an amazing night. So, Ben, you can hang on for a minute. I'll talk to you on the other side.
Sounds good.